This is the story of the one. As a maintenance engineer, he hears things differently. To the untrained ear, everything on his shop floor might sound fine, but he can hear gears grinding or a belt slipping. So he steps in to fix the problem at hand before it gets out of hand. And he knows Grainger's got the right product he needs to get the job done, which is music to his ears. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
This is the story of the one. As head of maintenance at a concert hall, he knows the show must always go on. That's why he works behind the scenes, ensuring every light is working, the HVAC is humming, and his facility shines. With Grainger's supplies and solutions for every challenge he faces, plus 24/7 customer support, his venue never misses a beat. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
The following program are pre-recorded.
Talk of the Town on Super Talk 1270.
Super Talk 1270, you're tuned to Talk of the Town. I'm Steve Bakken, and instead of Lori Hintz from Beck Communications, Beck TV, joining us today, we have got Curtis Junt, an expert in pipeline. And Kurt, a little background. We've had you on the program before, but you're a pipeline builder. You do a lot of space in the oil and gas industry, correct?
Well, I did. I retired out of that in about late 2016. So, no, I've not been doing that since. But, yeah, I spent my career before that since, June of 82. That's the space I was in, correct.
So you are one of the landowners affected or potentially affected by Summit Carbon Solutions' proposed CO2 pipeline. But I wanted to get into the facts and figures because one of the things that Summit has said all along is safety. And I don't necessarily believe them on everything that they say. So I wanted to get you on to talk about the dynamics of what a CO2 pipeline is versus an oil and gas pipeline. We're familiar with pipelines in North Dakota. Nobody bats an eye, and I think a lot of landowners that I've talked to that may have signed up on the leases for Summit thought, oh, it's another pipeline, or they were told, yeah, it's just another pipeline. CO2 pipelines are a little different. Explain that to our listeners this morning.
Well, they're different because of the product they carry. That's first and foremost needs to be distinguished. I mean, a natural gas pipeline or CO2 pipeline or carbon steel, the thickness of the wall is usually set by what you want your maximum allowable operating pressure to be. In the case of the Summit pipeline running east and north of Bismarck, their MAOP is like 2183. A lot of the natural gas pipelines running around North Dakota and that run east to west, north of Bismarck, that send natural gas from the Bismarck compressor station out to eastern North Dakota. Those pipelines don't run at that high of a pressure. That's another distinction. Summit is, of course, wanting to get above 1,070 psi to be in the supercritical state. They're going to, run that at high pressure just simply to move the velocity of the CO2, i.e. the volume rate. So they want to do about 18 million ton a year, which means injecting about close to 50,000 ton a day up in Oliver Mercer County into the Broom Creek. Another big distinction between methane, which is natural gas, pipeline that serves our businesses and homes, is that CO2, when it comes in contact with any water content in the pipe, can be very corrosive because it forms carbonic acid, and we all know that can be a problem for steel. In the natural gas industry, we limit the amount of water in our interstate pipeline systems to 4 pounds per million cubic feet. That may have to be even a lower number when it comes to moving CO2. So those are some of the main distinctions. Another big distinction is when you do have a pipeline rupture of a CO2 pipeline, we're talking about venting a totally different product. And when you have a rupture on a natural gas pipeline, methane, when that escapes from pressure of whatever it is, 1,000 or 1,400 in the pipeline to atmospheric pressure of 14.5 psi, what happens is you get at the rupture point what's called an endothermic reaction, meaning the temperature drops to a cryogenic state. So when you're at 2183 psi in a CO2 pipeline, we're talking about the temperature at the release point going down below 106 degrees below zero. Now, the faster the velocity from the rupture to the atmosphere, the colder the temp will get. So that's why you see that white, dry ice-looking vapor cloud that comes out of a rupture if you see any simulations, off of YouTube or whatever. But when that warms up with the air, that CO2 falls to the ground. It's 1.5 times 3 heavier than air, and it becomes a gas, and it's not visible, it's invisible, and it's odorless. So most of our natural gas pipeline systems that run anywhere around populated areas, we have an odorant in it called mercaptan. This CO2 will be odorless and colorless. So those are some of the big distinctions and the things that get into safety matters. The biggest thing being that CO2 is 1.53 times heavier than air. It is an asphyxiant. When you get to 4% by volume, you start becoming disoriented. You will you can have a headache, but as you move from 4% up to 8%, your condition becomes worse, and at 8% to 10%, death is almost imminent. So, and that CO2 vapor cloud can travel for thousands, if not miles, at a concentration of 4% or higher. Natural gas, yes, it can explode, and when I say explode, meaning flammable, but that is lighter than air. It tends to move up. Downdraft of winds can keep it, depending on humidity and temperature. But, we've been building natural gas interstate pipeline systems for 130 years, and natural gas pipeline, interstate, and distribution systems, we have over 3 million miles. People have been well-trained. We're well-versed. When you smell gas, you don't light your cigarette or anything, turn lights on in your house if you smell gas in your house. So the thing about CO2 is you don't really know how to react until, you get to a point where it's almost too late, because it will overcome you without any warning. So those are a lot of the major distinctions that people ought to know. Yes, pipelines are the safest way to move liquids and gas, but what keeps getting put in the narrative is not flammable, non-explosive, those kind of things that the company tries to make it sound like this is much safer. They've even used that term, safer than any pipelines running through Burleigh County.
So, Kurt Junt, pipeline expert, and why could you not, or why could they not, put mercaptan or some other odorizing agent into the CO2?
So, the reading that I've done on that, part of the thing that becomes an issue is the technology out there. Number one, if you can do it, it's very expensive, but it's also you have a risk of it adding to the corrosion as it mixes with the CO2. Whatever the product is, the mercaptan or whatever that they put in CO2 does not react the same with CO2 that it does with methane, which is CH4, and it can actually accelerate corrosion in the pipe. So there's a cost aspect of it, which I'm not sure that is a problem in this gold rush of carbon capture and CO2 pipelines. But I think more than anything, it's a pipeline integrity issue, from what I've been able to gather.
We're talking with Curtis Junt, pipeline expert. This is Talk of the Town. You can go to all things Summit Carbon Solutions proposed CO2 pipeline. Beck TV Plus. Lori Hintz does a great job of running all the information right there. We'll get back to Kurt coming up next on Super Talk 1270.
Super Talk. This is the story of the one. As a maintenance engineer, he hears things differently. To the untrained ear, everything on his shop floor might sound fine, but he can hear gears grinding or a belt slipping. So he steps in to fix the problem at hand before it gets out of hand. And he knows Granger's got the right product he needs to get the job done, which is music to his ears. Call, click Granger.com, or just stop by. Granger, for the ones who get it done.
Talk of the Town on Super Talk 1270.
Super Talk 1270, you're tuned to Talk of the Town. I'm Steve Bach, along with Curtis Junt. He is a pipeline engineer. He's built a lot of oil and gas pipelines. And we're talking about CO2 and why CO2 is a little bit different. Summit Carbon Solutions proposed CO2 pipeline, of course, been in the news. You can follow everything with Lori Hintz and her expose and coverage at Beck TV Plus. Capturing America's Heartland, CO2 pipeline, and she's done a wonderful job of getting everything all laid out and having all the information in one place, which is very valuable as well from state to state, and why this is such a huge project and how that plays into public safety and eminent domain and landowners' rights, for me, is the big piece. But, Kurt, I wanted to talk about some of the characteristics of CO2. So we've had a couple of leaks, breaks in pipelines. Satarsha, Mississippi is one. We just recently had another one. Fortunately, they're touting the fact that there were high winds to help dissipate the CO2, which probably saved some lives. They were thinking these are smaller lines, 4 to 8 inch lines on the break. We're talking about a 24-inch pipeline that's going to be running through Emmons and Burleigh County, much larger. What would happen? Because one of the things Summit has not done is supply plume modeling. So what happens under certain conditions, winds, wind direction, wind speed, temperature, humidity, all of that plays into plume modeling and what's going to happen. Now, we all know that CO2 is heavier than air, so it's not going to dissipate up in the atmosphere. It's going to stay down near the ground, and it is an asphyxiant. I always kind of, in my mind, picture the angel of death in the Ten Commandments with Charleston Heston and the mist. Yeah. That's what it pops into my head all the time. Is it that far off?
Steve, it's really not that far off. If you talk to a lot of us who have looked at, the known knowns and known unknowns, what can happen just because of the physics of what happens when CO2 is released from a high-pressure pipeline, you're talking about a multivariable equation here. It involves not only engineering, but physics. So where the rupture is located on the landscape, this is heavier than air. It will move to the low immediately, like water vapor fog. It will travel to low-lying areas. When you talk about how long it takes to dissipate, okay, so the things that will make it heavier, more dense, take longer to dissipate would be higher humidity, lighter winds, colder temperatures, because the colder temperatures means just like air, just like water vapor fog, you have a more dense CO2 plume. It will move to the low-lying areas. So if you have a rupture north of Bismarck, where they have now rerouted it further north, it will immediately travel to the west in its low-lying. However, the water drainage ravines, if you just look at the water drainage ravines around and through Bismarck, like Burnt Creek to the east, Hay Creek comes through Bismarck. To the west, you've got a shorter path going directly to the Missouri River. It will form a plume and travel down the Missouri River, and it'll go to the east and travel down the coulees. So if you live in a low-lying area, you are the most at risk. If it is 30, if it's below zero, if it's, in January we had days where it was 20-some below zero. The winter before we went, and we've gone through weeks where we barely get above zero. That CO2 plume will take longer to dissipate. It'll be more dense, and it will move with those prevailing winter northwest winds, and this pipeline happens to be north of Bismarck. So when you look at late fall or even fall through spring, our prevailing winds are from the north, northwest, northeast. It's just a fact. That's not a scare tactic. It's not make-believe. It's not fiction. It is fact, which obviously the pipeline folks that routed this pipeline were not from here. They were from Texas and parts south. Didn't really think about that, or if they did, they didn't care, because all they were thinking about is we have to avoid going south of Bismarck because we don't want another DAPL protest. But I don't know that they ever stopped to go meet with the folks south of Bismarck and say, look, this is not an oil pipeline. It's, this is something that's not going to permanently damage the land or the water. We could have moved this thing halfway between the DAPL corridor, which is an established wide corridor, and Bismarck, and still had it 20 miles each way, which gives ample time for emergency notification and people to react. The further you are away from this pipeline when it ruptures, the more time you have to react, to get indoors, to shelter in place. The closer you are to it, you have almost no notice. Now, if you look at Summit's expert witnesses, and I've read a number of their testimonies on plume modeling and their toxicologist guy, if you read the last paragraph of his testimony, there's no concern whatsoever for anybody within, along the route of this CO2 pipeline. No concern whatsoever. And they're using a plume modeling called Canary and 2D. Now, that Canary model, that came from how they used to, when they used to use canaries in coal mine
Canary
shafts.
in the coal mine,
they would
yeah.
go in there and they would drop dead. Of course, they knew the gases were too much CO2 in there, but that's just kind of where the name came from. But 2D flow tells me two-dimensional, where terrain is extremely important in how you model where this plume moves. And to look at around Bismarck, to really get an idea of the impact to everybody, you would have to run dozens of plume model iterations all the way around Bismarck because of how our terrain changes and how hilly we are. So one plume model does not fit all. And also the wind directions, you have to take that into account. So for me to get comfortably familiar with how a CO2 rupture from north all the way around the east of Bismarck would be, how it would affect citizens in every direction, we're probably talking more than 24 plume model iterations. And at this point, we haven't seen a one.
Well, Kurt, I don't think they exist because, A, they take some time to produce when you're applying all the different variables, and B, they cost money. And I don't see anything from this company on the front side that is about spending any money when it comes to safety and concerns of local communities or private property owners. So I don't think they exist because I don't think they wanted to spend the money and the time on doing them correctly because they were trying to get ahead of PHMSA regulations or the new regulations from PHMSA that are going to come out. And they didn't want to spend time on that. They wanted to get a permitted project in place so that they could get grandfathered in. We're going to come back and talk about that a little bit. We're talking with Curtis Junk, pipeline expert. This is Talk of the Town on Super Talk 1270.
News, talk, and sports for Bismarck Mandan. Super Talk 1270. Welcome back to Talk of the Town on Super Talk 1270.
Super Talk 1270. I'm Steve Bakken, and of course, usually Monday mornings we have Lori Hintz from Beck TV, Beck TV Plus, actually, their new platform, where we follow Capturing America's Heartland, CO2 pipeline. Lori does a great job putting all the pieces together there. We're talking with Kurt Junt today, pipeline expert, about a lot of the dynamics around a proposed CO2 pipeline from Summit Carbon Solutions. I want to get into a little bit of the expert testimony and the PSC side of this, Kurt, because you mentioned some of the different plume modeling that's out there. And what they're citing, I don't know if that's the most accurate to meet the needs, even if there were a plume model, which I don't think exists, from Summit Carbon Solutions.
Well, that's a really critical point here because they filed expert witness testimony from several gentlemen that have PhD. One was addressing plume modeling. The other was a toxicologist. They're all PhDs. The one guy had a resume of like 9 pages long. But I read, this was filed in South Dakota. That's when I first got a hold of it. I assume that these same experts are being used and probably filed. Well, I know that they probably are because John Schmidt was one of them that I read, and he testified for Summit on April 22nd. So in reading the one about plume modeling, the gentleman, and I don't recall his name, but he was bolstering the plume modeling called Canary and 2D Flow that Summit's using, but also modeling that method that is the EPA has had for decades called FAST. It's an acronym, PHAST, and it's Pipeline Hazardous Analysis Simulation Tool, something like that. I believe that's close. But this expert witness for Summit was bolstering how, those are industry standards, state of the art. Now, one thing we all need to keep in mind is the Department of Transportation division called PHMSA, Pipeline Hazardous Materials Safety Administration, hasn't really had sufficient rules in place to address the build-out of CO2 pipelines.
They're working on that right now,
became
though.
Evident when the Satartia, Mississippi incident happened, and they did their 2-year review. That happened February of 20, and on May, I believe it was May 22nd of 22, they announced their 269-page findings, fined Denbury $4 million, and said we are embarking on rewrite of our rules to more fully address and cover the build-out of high-pressure CO2 pipelines that are going to now likely run near urban populated areas, more high-concentration areas of tens of thousands of citizens. So before, our 5,400 miles of CO2 pipeline have been for enhanced oil recovery primarily and run primarily in rural areas like the Dakota Gas Pipeline that runs to Weyburn in Canada, delivering CO2 from the DGC plant near Beulah up to enhanced oil recovery for oil. And that's not a shale formation, by the way. That's more of a conventional formation. So they have these experts were supporting this modeling, which I can tell you does not take into account terrain and other of the many, many variables. There's dozens of variables that come into play when you do this modeling, which is why it takes many iterations. So the expert witness on the landowner intervener side, Attorney Brian Jordy, his name is Dr. John Abraham. I've read his testimony also. He is the one, and it's filed in North Dakota, is saying the only modeling method out there that will adequately take into account terrain and all the other variables is called CFD modeling, computational fluid dynamic. And of course, this expert witness for Summit in his last paragraph said, that's very time consuming, it's not necessary, and it's very expensive. And it is. You're probably talking $100,000 to evaluate, and I don't know how much of an area we're talking about, but the PSC, it's incumbent upon them to verify this. This is the most critical aspect of this whole CO2 pipeline project, because what comes from adequate, sufficient plume modeling all the way around Bismarck and other areas south of us, Emmons County, anywhere you're getting, anywhere. I mean, what about the landowner that's got thousands of cattle and show horses and everything? They're going to want to know how a pipeline rupture running east of them or west of them is going to affect their family and their animals also. So there has to be a model that can,
Kurt, let me stop you for a second.
When a landowner, a ranch owner, a town, a village, a community, a city says, okay, what if there's a rupture here? You plug it in and be able to give some sort of a result. Those are the answers that are incumbent upon our PSC to verify. Trust but verify.
Okay, Kurt.
They don't have the expertise, so the state's spending hundreds of thousands of dollars indoctrinating the people. They can spend millions of dollars to do the right modeling, to get somebody in there unbiased, so that we, the citizens, know how to prepare our emergency response.
So, Kurt, my question is, it's because you mentioned $100,000, or it could be a couple $1 million, whatever the case may be, for the proper plume modeling, the proper knowing what could happen so that you can train up the first responders, train up the municipalities so they know how to have a response plan or what a response plan would look like, because nobody knows right now. And in the scope of this is a multi-billion-dollar project, that's not a lot of money for public safety.
That's correct. You know, after Thanksgiving, the last week of November, Summit gathered up Burley County law enforcement, fire and rescue of Bismarck and Burley County. There was a litany of folks. Well, you probably know this. I don't know if you were there, but Commissioner Chair Bittner of Burley County was there. In that meeting, somebody asked the Summit folks, so at what CO2 concentration can our diesel rescue trucks still run? They were told 15%. Now, the higher the number, when you look at a plume model, you look at, okay, how far out do you go from the rupture till you get to like 4%? What's the distance where you're 4% or higher right up to the rupture? Well, when they say 15%, they're telling our fire and rescue that, you know, and then they show a model where that's only a small area. That's maybe 500 or 700 feet. And they're saying anywhere around Bismarck there's a rupture. We can understand why that things like that are being conveyed without any verification. And it's when I met with the fire chief and his folks on December 1st, I said it's incumbent upon all of you to verify what that real number is. Now, I've tried to find that out on my own, calling folks at different diesel mechanic places, very highly regarded around Bismarck, and nobody's ever asked that. I don't know that. Wow. They haven't been able to find that answer. So that's something that the 15%, I think, was thrown out there because that makes the amount of equipment and the area impacted to be rescued means they're trying to minimize how much equipment they have to provide to our emergency response folks.
Even if the vehicle...
So this is so critical, and the PSC needs... It's incumbent upon them to let the citizens know what the impact area is going to be so that the training, not only emergency response, but also building managers, shut off your air handlers, but the citizens need to be trained. When that rupture happened a month ago in Sulphur, Louisiana, it was chaos. Nobody knew what to do. Took how long? I think you quoted on your show, it took, 2.5 hours for Denver
just to get a hold of somebody,
to show up?
Just to get a hold of somebody. Now, and we're up against a break, but I'm going to play devil's advocate for a second. Say 15% a vehicle could run, a diesel response vehicle could operate at 15%. The operators can't operate at 15% because you mentioned the 4% where you're disoriented and start having a lot of issues. That means everybody has to be on a breathing apparatus. So the vehicle may run at 15%, but the first responders and those they're trying to rescue, that is a much lower number. We're talking with Kurt Junt. This is Talk of the Town on Super Talk 1270.
Super Talk. Talk of the Town on Super Talk 1270.
Super Talk 1270, you're tuned to Talk of the Town. I'm Steve Bach along with Kurt Junt, pipeline expert. And, of course, you can follow all things Summit Carbon Solutions' proposed CO2 pipeline, capturing America's heartland, CO2 pipeline at Beck TV+. This is Talk of the Town. And, okay, Kurt, just to wrap up, when you're looking at 15% that a vehicle can run, if that's the actual number, because that's what Summit's throwing out. That's not what experts are throwing out. But who are you going to rescue at 15%? If you can operate a vehicle in 15%, people die at a much lower percentage than that because CO2 is an asphyxiant. So who are you going to rescue?
Nobody. At 8 to 10%, death is imminent. So the point is pointless. I mean, so your vehicles can run at 15%, you're going to go in there and rescue nobody, not even a mouse in a corner. I mean, everything, every critter, everything is deceased. just remember, between 8 and 10%, you have minutes to be rescued. So at 10%, death is imminent. I mean, don't take my word for it. You can Google this. I mean, OSHA says that they say you can be exposed to 0.5% of CO2 by volume in a warehouse. You know, if you're running a forklift that runs on a propane tank, up to 8 hours, 0.5%. We breathe 0.03 to 0.05%. So, I mean, I don't believe it for a minute. I have had no success in trying to verify what the real number is, because even the expert folks that work on these things, these diesel engines, nobody's ever asked them that. They don't know. I can't find any tests that have been done, but I don't find that believable when it's almost twice the concentration where death is almost imminent. But your point is well taken. So you can drive in to 15%, and you don't have to worry about even doing that, because no one will be alive. Nothing.
And that's as long as the operator is wearing the right equipment and oxygen tanks and being able to operate themselves at that percentage. And that's if that number is accurate, because that's a number that Summit threw out, and I don't have a whole lot of credence in much of anything Summit has to say at this point in time. One of the other things you mentioned, too, we were talking about the DGC, which is the Dakota Gasification Pipeline, and that comes into play a little bit here, because we're trying to establish or find some of the pipeline nuances and how the CO2 pipeline function, because we've had the two, both Satarsha, Mississippi and Sulphur, Louisiana was the most recent breaks, and trying to get a handle on what that looks like is difficult at best. You know, this is where PHMSA comes in, and PHMSA is rewriting their books and rewriting the rules and regulations. Summit, of course, was trying to get in front of that so they could be grandfathered in without those new regulations going into place. And we don't know what those are going to look like. We don't know when those are going to come out. They're supposed to be out sometime this summer, sooner than later, hopefully. But as far as the DGC incident reports, because that's a pipeline that runs up to Saskatchewan and Canada, 14 and 12-inch pipelines. What were some of the notes that you've uncovered? Because that is a high operating pressures in that pipeline, not the lower pressure passive pipeline. What were some of the things you found out there?
Well, yeah, we're trying to find out what leak incidences that 24-year-old 14 and 12-inch pipeline. By the way, the 14 or the 12, one of the two operates at like 2,700 some PSI, so they're very high pressure. We know that when there is an incident, they have to report to the PSC. So we've gone to the PSC just only this end of last week, only a few days ago. We had somebody that's in our group that made contact with them up there. Also, they have to report to pipeline safety, which that's PHMSA. So we're going to try to find out what other incidences they've had. But the one that we were able to find out here just Friday, we got information on, was their corridor. They put their pipe in about 24 years ago, but about 13 years ago, I guess, or sometime 2010, I think, Bridger Oil Pipeline was approved by the PSC to build along in the same corridor as the DGC line. And there was a landslide, a significant landslide, which is one of the things, that's what caused the Satarsha, Mississippi, after inundated with many inches of rain, if not feet of rain, but things that cause landslides like that. But the DGC folks sent an extensive letter from their legal counsel to the PSC, basically pointing their finger at Bridger Oil Pipeline and their shoddy workmanship. And you read the whole letter from the attorney for DGC Basin Electric about all of the missteps that were taken in building this Bridger Oil Pipeline, that they're pointing to cause this significant landslide that exposed dozens of feet of their high-pressure line. They had to drop the pressure down, then they had to take it out of service, and that was, they've had to do that before for some other incidences that we're trying to get some information on. Like, I guess a year ago, they had a stuck pipeline inspection tool called a PIG. So I don't, there's been other incidences. We don't have them all. But this just goes to show you the things, the known knowns that can happen when you rush to build a pipeline or you've got out-of-state folks building a pipeline. And I don't know that this is going to be all out-of-state, but I know it's going to be a lot of out-of-state engineers and a lot of folks involved, inspecting this. But, it's always a rush to get as many miles of pipeline in a day. But you look at what happened when Bridger Oil built this pipeline in the corridor of DGC and things like that, that the DGC pointed to Bridger's construction methods that caused a significant area of landslide that they were able to catch before the pipeline broke. It was suspended across a landslide and it did not break at a weld, which is really quite amazing. But because of the stress of the sagging pipe across that section, the engineers recommended they have to cut that out because the tensile strength, the yield strength of the pipeline had been compromised. So not only did they have to remove 50 feet of soil each side, but they had to remove a huge section of this pipe because the yield, the tensile strength, the yield strength of the pipe had been compromised because it was sagging for such an extended period of time.
And this is a company that actually built pipelines. Now, we're talking about Summit Carbon Solutions and their proposed pipeline. This is a company, Summit, that has never built a pipeline before. And they tout this as being one of the, or if not the biggest CO2 pipeline project ever. And for somebody who's never built a pipeline before, I've got some serious concerns. We're talking with Kurt Junt. He is a pipeline engineer. This is Talk of the Town on Super Talk 1270.
Talk of the Town.
KLXX Mandan Bismarck, a Town Square media station, broadcasting from the View Community Credit Union Studio.
Don't miss a minute.
This is the story of the one. As a maintenance engineer, he hears things differently. To the untrained ear, everything on his shop floor might sound fine, but he can hear gears grinding or a belt slipping. So he steps in to fix the problem at hand before it gets out of hand. And he knows Grainger's got the right product he needs to get the job done, which is music to his ears. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
On Hannity Show.
I know that there is a segment of society that would love a perpetual shutdown, and I guess we could live in a bubble, but who's going to build the bubble if everybody shuts down?
Weekday afternoons starting at 2 on Super Talk 1270.
Portions of the following program are pre-recorded.
Welcome back to Talk of the Town on Super Talk 1270.
Super Talk 1270, you're tuned to Talk of the Town. I'm Steve Bakken. Normally, Lori Hintz with us from Beck TV. You can go to Beck TV Plus. Follow Capturing America's Heartland, CO2 Pipeline, all things Summit Carbon Solutions proposed CO2 pipeline. And we've got a pipeline expert on today, Kurt Junt, who has been testifying at the Public Service Commission, has been part of the conversations. Don't forget, there's some more meetings coming up. We'll talk about those in a few seconds as well. But I want to talk about the sequestration side, Kurt. So the Broom Creek is where they're looking at putting this. That's a saline aquifer. And the sequestration side, I'm thinking, okay, saltwater disposal. We're familiar with saltwater disposal wells. I remember some experimentation that was taking place with Whiting Petroleum. They were actually causing earthquakes in Colorado, and the Geologic Survey in Colorado was like, they kept reporting all these earthquakes. Well, Whiting was playing with injection pressures and speed of injection, and they were creating some earthquakes. And well, then the Geologic Survey said, hey, can you repeat those? And we're like, yeah, because they wanted to study earthquakes. What Summit's talking about doing is very rapidly, under very high pressure, injecting, not dissimilar in the same fashion, the CO2. I've got some concerns when you're trying to inject a large amount of material very quickly under high pressure. into a space. And first of all, do you have any concerns about that? Because I'm thinking, okay, they were creating earthquakes, and this is different, I understand, but I've got some concerns. And then I want to get into the fact that the Broom Creek is actually a saline aquifer. So do you have any concerns as far as the pressure or the rate at which they want to inject?
Well, Steve, I absolutely do. I've spent a good part of my career in the reservoir engineering space, also worked with a lot of geologists. I happen to be working with some folks right now. One of them is a geological engineer. But from my space alone, that has been a concern from the beginning of learning what their annual volume is divided by 365. They're talking 18 million ton a year. We're talking about around 50,000 ton a day. Now, if you look at Red Trail Energy at Richardson, the ethanol plant, they're doing less than 500 ton a day. Blue Flint ethanol, probably about the same. I'm not sure what Coal Creek's looking to sequester, but we're talking about something that's never been done. That's a key point here. So while there's been a lot of science people and engineers from EERC, Halliburton, Schlumberger, and other entities that have been involved, a lot of highly educated, experienced folks have done research on this over the last 12 years or more, but that doesn't mean that they have all the answers. This is still a science project. Never before, 50,000 ton a day. The frac gradient of the Broom Creek, meaning what the rock would actually fracture at, is north of 4,000, I think, of 4,500 PSI. They're going to be shoving the CO2 down. Bottom hole pressure is going to be probably above 3,000 PSI. That CO2 will then immerse with the salt water in the formation, just like you carbonate your soda pop or your beer. It will then react with any other minerals in the formation, and hopefully there aren't minerals, a lot of minerals like iron or any things that can form like an oxide, because then you start plugging pore space. But I have to just assume, and we know what happens when you do that, but I have to assume that all these smart people have done all the core work and looked at how CO2 reacts with all the minerals in the formation to determine in the Broom Creek that it won't clog pore space, because that's going to be very problematic. So there's all sorts of things that can happen in that formation as you shove CO2, month after month, year after year, how it's going to move, where it's going to migrate, what are the fault compartments within the Broom Creek, what is the structure, it's going to move. As you move up dip in a structure, the pressure goes lower. They have to make sure that they don't have, pressure pockets or something like that where they can get above, say, the frac gradient of the rock. I mean, to me, this is a science project that I would not ever want to be tied to. I'm just telling you that I wouldn't.
Okay, you brought up a lot of questions here, Kurt.
No one will have the answers.
A lot of questions popping in my mind. Okay, so you mentioned the mineral side of things, and there's a lot of minerals down there that are more valuable than what this CO2 scam is. So displacing some of those, you mentioned earlier about the carbonic acid that is produced when salt water or water is introduced. What does that do to old wells that may have been plugged in that formation, or old oil? Carbonic acid doesn't like concrete. That's the number one thing it works on, and a lot of those are concrete plugs. What does that look like?
Not concrete. See, they're cement.
Well,
so
cement,
we don't plug wells with concrete. Concrete is cement with aggregate in it. We don't do that. This is just a cement plug that goes down, fills the drill hole. So there are wells in the vicinity of where they're going to be injecting. There aren't many close, but there are some that were drilled through the Broom Creek to the Deadwood Formation. There is a limestone cement plug, and CO2 is when you're talking about CO2, it's very corrosive to not only carbon steel pipe when you have water content, which the Broom Creek does, but it's very corrosive to cement. So
the
there
limestone,
are within about a 20-mile radius of or maybe less of the injection site in Oliver Mercer County, there's over 24 previously drilled, plugged and abandoned exploratory wells that all penetrate through the Broom Creek. Now, my concern, and that's been another one of my concerns from the very beginning, coming from this part of the industry, is that works, it's on under 3,000 plus PSI, and as you go uphole, pressure, everything in nature wants to move from high to low pressure, hot to cold. So the pressure it'll want to work its way to the path of least resistance. So if it starts etching that cement plug through the hundreds of feet of the Broom Creek, my concern is forming a microannulus over time all the way up the hole, where you could then have unintended consequences of the CO2 leaching into other formations. That is a huge concern. I don't know what all the engineers at ERC and all the wish assist PhD people have to say about the likelihood of that. But one thing that I take exception to is I keep hearing the term unlikely. And I'm sorry, but that's not going to cut it for me.
We're talking with Kurt Junt. We covered a lot, and you said something in this segment that also rang in, like Red Trail Energy and Dakota Gasification, some other different facilities that are sequestering CO2 locally on their grounds. And some of what I've read, a lot of what I read actually, is there's the ability to sequester at any of these ethanol plants locally. So brings up the question, why are you running a CO2 pipeline hundreds and hundreds of miles when you could do that project locally? Different discussion for a different day. But Kurt, thank you for your time this morning.
Yeah, sorry about the dog barking.
You know what? I love dogs. We're a dog-friendly show. Kurt Junt.
I know he's by my feet all the time. I can't. If I put him on the other side of the door, he'd be scratching on the door. So I had to have him with us. Perfect.
Kurt Junt, pipeline expert. Thanks for joining us this morning. You can check out all things Summit Carbon Solutions proposed CO2 pipeline by going to Beck TV Plus, capturing America's Heartland CO2 pipeline. Lori Hintz does a great job of keeping up to date with all the information. This is Talk of the Town on Super Talk 1270.
Super Talk.
This is the story of the one. As head of maintenance at a concert hall, he knows the show must always go on. That's why he works behind the scenes, ensuring every light is working, the HVAC is humming, and his facility shines. With Grainger's supplies and solutions for every challenge he faces, plus 24/7 customer support, his venue never misses a beat. Call quickgrainger.com or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Talk of the Town on Super Talk 1270.
Super Talk 1270, you're tuned to Talk of the Town. I'm Steve Baca, along with Brad Hawk, General Manager over at Running 701 South Washington in Bismarck. And it's back. Meat Stick Monday.
Yeah.
Which is kind of temporarily replaced Jerky Monday if you could ever open the package.
I know. There you go. I got it now. Here we go.
So Cloverdale, tangy snack. These snackers.
I know. This is like the third or fourth time I brought them.
Is this like the best invention ever? It's like, thank you, Cloverdale, for doing the expansion on the plant so you could do these. Because they needed the room to do these. And these are freaking amazing. So, yeah, the Cloverdale snackers, awesome stuff.
Oh, they're so good. And we are, I don't know when, soon we're getting the beef ones too. They made an all beef snacker as well. So I was told, the buyer said the next round of snackers that come in will have that all beef one. Yep. And we're working out.
I'm a big beef fan.
Sometime here this week, hopefully this week, we'll be heading out to Cloverdale to pick up a bunch of the summer sausage.
Is this like breaking news?
Those little stick things. Well, so we got this killer deal on them. Yeah, those little chub ones, the summer sausage, the ones you don't have to refrigerate.
Which, when you're hunting and fishing, are the perfect for putting in the boat or out hunting, and you get the little buns and sandwiches.
And we got awesome. Just a fantastic deal on these things. So we're gonna put them out as a May manager special. It's like $2.99 or normally $4.99. So we're gonna go $2.99 or $2.49. It's just gonna be a great price, and we're gonna have a lot of them. And I'm in competition with the Dickinson store on who can sell more. So
I'll participate in that for you.
So I figured I need to get one of those
Do I get
vending.
a case price?
we'll work something
Do I
out.
get a pallet
Yeah.
price?
Yeah. Oh, I would totally do a pallet price. There we go.
Hey,
Yeah.
why screw around?
I
I'll
told
pick
the
up a pallet.
Dickinson manager I'm going to be out in the greenhouse vending sausage sticks.
Yeah.
I'm going to wear one of those big vending things for concession
Planting a
stands.
sausage stick.
There you go. If you never know, you get hungry when you plant flowers.
Like those theater girls with the trays back in the 30s.
I could go fancy. I could put it on a little tray too and walk around. Absolutely.
Oh, these are so big news with Cloverdale. It's like, what a great relationship that turned into.
Mm-hmm.
And that exemplifies Runnings. It's like, what do you want? And Runnings goes out and gets it. And then you take the local stuff that's really popular, spread that around the rest of the company, because Cloverdale has really gotten into a lot of other stores and a lot of other markets because of the relationship with Runnings as well. So that's a two-way street. That goes both ways.
And our vendor with the Cloverdale sales rep, he's the one who called us with this offer. Like, hey, we got a deal for you guys. We're sitting on some of this. Let's make a deal. Let's make this happen. We're like, heck yes, let's do it. So it was really neat. And they're awesome when you go out there, those guys. I pull up to the wrong door and they're like, oh, nope, over there. And they've just been really nice to me.
Brad pulls up. You're going to need a bigger door. Wrong door. Go to the freight door. We're going to really load you up today. Mm-hmm. One of the other things that you brought in, too, Dots Pretzels. And Dots are on sale
They're
now.
on sale this week. So the big 16-ounce bag's only $5.49. If you have not, I brought the cinnamon and sugar ones.
I love
because
those.
they're so good. The honey mustard one's really good, and the regular is really good. But these
I love the
cinnamon
regular, but the honey mustard is like, that's kind of my go-to when I'm hunting or in the boat.
But yeah, these cinnamon sugar ones are. Open them up.
Let's open those suckers up, too.
Well, why not?
Why not? Thank you. These are my favorites. And the cool thing is these really don't go on sale a lot. I mean, so North Dakota Company, of course, those that don't know the story of Dots Pretzels, which if you're in North Dakota, I don't know how you don't. North Dakota Company, Dot blew this company up, did a great job, and then sold it for a lot of money. Hershey Company, right? Yeah,
correct.
Bought it.
Yep.
And now they've taken that marketing to the next level because Dots had gotten really big regionally, but it's too good to keep to ourselves. So now Hershey's is marketing it globally, and one of the best product lines right out of North Dakota.
These taste like when I remember being at my grandma's house and we would make toast and put butter on it and cinnamon and sugar.
Yeah, cinnamon.
Because they're like, that taste is in this pretzel.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, gosh.
Excuse my chewing, but
That's good stuff.
damn, those are good. So, yeah, Dot's great company. And actually, the backstory of that, because I know I got a friend of mine, when Dot started this company out of her house, and then she had was needing a place to get a little bigger and couldn't find a commercial kitchen in the small little town that she came from. Might be a twist, Brad.
You know what? I got this Runnings bottle opener.
You do have that Runnings bottle opener.
Yeah.
And
if you want a Runnings bottle opener, just ask me the next time you're in, because I got a lot of them.
Okay. So anybody who wants a Runnings bottle opener, which are good to put in the boat or key ring or ask Brad. He's got them.
It opens boxes.
Ooh, yeah. So she needed a commercial kitchen, and she had a friend of hers from her town, who was a legislator actually, who was like, it's like, yeah, I can help you do that. It's a great idea. I love the product. And boom, invested
there
in the
was.
company. And
That's crazy.
It's probably paid a pretty good dividend for helping out a small business. Great relationship. The other thing, Boulder Birch Beer. I have never had Birch Beer before, so I'm familiar with the Boulder brand.
Yep.
But you guys got to get a palate of whatever. You got Saranac
Sparkling lemonade.
I've had that before, and that is amazing in the summer. That is absolutely great on ice.
Yes. Also,
All right, Birch Beer.
I mean, I could maybe like the Huckleberry vodka from that brewery and that distillery in town.
Well, I was gonna go there. But
I didn't know if I should go there. If it's not now,
fine.
Clearly it's early morning and we're working and all, so it's not here.
Actually, it's kind of funny because like I'm always looking for. I'm the mixologist when it comes to what's the boat drink, and then I show dogs, of course. So I'm the bartender within my friends in the dog show world.
Yep.
So go to a dog show, it's like, big show, and there's a couple big shows I go to, and they're like, so what's the cocktail du jour this and I'll pre-mix Caesars, or I'll do something fruity, or I'll do it. So I come up with something different.
There you go.
Every
grenadine
time.
for those who don't want the huckleberry vodka. You can put some grenadine in there. It'd be a great little summer mix for the kids.
But my go-to for a lot of things, and even if I'm blending them, it's like, oh, okay, I'm making a lemonade drink, so I'll grab some of those craft lemonades that you have and pour that into the blender. Boom, done.
Oh, nice.
Oh, yeah, you can blend. So the flavor from a lot of these go well in mixology. So,
there you go.
Yeah, so
I'll be curious what that birch beer tastes like.
How many people are going to play hooky the rest of the day and go, yeah, okay, it's a 4-blender lunch today. It's a little different than root beer. The birch beer, it's a little milder.
Really?
It. Yeah.
Okay.
It's a little milder than regular root, because root beer can have a little bite to it.
Yep.
But the birch beer, it's a little smoother.
You know, you're drinking coffee this morning. I was on the fence because we sell that Dark Canyon coffee from that small business in South Dakota.
Actually, that's not really coffee. It's mostly Italian sweet cream with a little coffee in it.
I use the Chobani sweet cream.
Oh, yeah.
That's what I use. That's my go-to.
It's like, okay, because I need to drink not as much pop. But, of course, birch beer, not pop. So we're perfectly fine.
Next time I'll brew some coffee.
Oh, okay.
There we go.
So I'll bring the Italian sweet cream then.
Awesome.
Just let me know. We're talking with Brad Ock, General Manager over at Runnings. This is Talk of the Town on Super Talk 1270.
Hey.
This is the story of the one. As a maintenance engineer, he hears things differently. To the untrained ear, everything on his shop floor might sound fine, but he can hear gears grinding or a belt slipping. So he steps in to fix the problem at hand before it gets out of hand. And he knows Granger's got the right product he needs to get the job done, which is music to his ears. Call, click Granger.com, or just stop by. Granger, for the ones who get it done.
Back to Talk of the Town on Super Talk 1270.
Super Talk 1270, you're tuned to Talk of the Town. I'm Steve Bach, along with Brad Ock, General Manager over at Runnings. Now that we got everybody hungry, and these meat sticks didn't last very long.
Nope.
Cloverdale, tangy snackers, summer sauces. Of course, you heard it right here. Big announcement. Cloverdale deal coming to the store. Is it this week or next week?
Well, I was told I might have to go pick it up this week. That's one of the cool parts, too, is like they don't have to ship it to a warehouse somewhere to redistribute. Truck. Well, I'm using the store trailer because if the numbers look right, it's about 3,000 pounds.
Yeah.
So we're going to have to pull a little mini trailer over there. It's a lot of beef.
A lot of meat. So big deal with Cloverdale. Watch for that. We'll tell you about that next Monday, too. But pop in the store, and you're just going to throw work on that pallet price for me, because I go through a lot of these. Also, Dot's Pretzels on sale this week. And, of course, this birch beer. I've not had birch beer before. It's really good. But we're going to get to the garden center and what's in the flyer. But the big news, everybody's been this is the year. I mean, this is the time of the year. This is the month. Yep. This is DeWalt. If you're a DeWalt guy, because everybody's loyal to their brands, whether it's Steel or Milwaukee or DeWalt, they like what they like. And with a lot of the systems, especially the battery systems, it's like, well, I don't want a battery for this and a battery for that and a battery. So a lot of people will get into one system and stay there.
Correct.
DeWalt's one of those brands that caters to the loyal customers. Also, they've got a lot of different tools that do specific little things that, I need a specific something for this. And, DeWalt's got it. It's kind of cool.
Yeah, and if you've been thinking about getting into battery operated, this is the sale to do. And I tell people, we'll always run small DeWalt sales here and there, but like one of the cool parts, I know we touched on it last week, for the
combo packs. I'm a big combo pack fan.
For the Bear tools this time, when you buy 3, they're throwing in the Tough System toolbox this time rather than that little bag. You get the toolbox. That's a really neat addition. So you get the toolbox, flashlight, charger, 3 5-amp-hour batteries when you purchase 3 Bear tools. If you're
and you can do that multiple times. So it's like, okay, I'm going to get 3 tools and get that deal. I'll get 3 more tools and get that deal. Because like I said, I'm a big combo pack fan, but because usually that's the best deal, but there will be 1 or 2 tools in that combo pack that I know I'm never going to use. So now is the time to do this, because a lot of times by the time you got to replace batteries, you're like, well, okay, what's the combo deal for that? Because I need the new battery anyway, so I might as well get the tool because in the long run, it's going to be a little bit cheaper anyway than just going and buying the battery. So buying this way is awesome for people that like me that get into the combo packs, but there's always that one or two tool that you just know you're not going to use. But this way, you don't have to worry about the one or two you're not going to use. You got the toolbox. I could do multiple combo packs. I can make my own combo pack. That's so cool.
Exactly. You know, and they've included so many of the lawn and garden tools into this sale, too, on the Bear tool side, which they haven't always included the lawn and garden power equipment into the Bear tool sale. And this time, all of them are in there. The pruning shears, the trimmers, the pressure washer, the pole saw, what's that? They have
little
a hedge trimmer in there.
Pressure washer, by the way, is so cool.
Is it? I haven't used it.
It works so well.
Instead
of dragging this big pressure washer.
So we have the plug-in one.
Spot jobs.
Oh,
works great.
Yep. And we use the pressure washer. Actually, our bathrooms at the store are all tiled. So when we do a deep clean once a month, we drag that pressure washer out, plug it in, and we run a 150-foot hose from the sink, and we just sit there and we we spray it down, we pressure wash the walls, toilet, and everything, and then we have the drain down.
So the cool thing with the battery operated is, doing windows. I mean, how many people get up on the ladder in the spring and wash their windows, make sure they're nice and clean, so
I just put
your wife doesn't yell at you for.
I just put my 7-year-old on the ladder to do he was so excited. He wanted to clean it so bad. And I was like,
kids, right?
I was like, oh boy, here we go, buddy. Head on up. So then I text my wife. I was like, go to the kitchen. And then he went up there and you're down there spotting,
Call Affleck. Affleck.
Yeah. So she gets out there, turns, goes like, what? He's waving, all excited, helping on the kitchen window. So it was was super
what you have kids
cute.
For.
Yeah.
Go clean the gutters.
Yeah. Help us out.
Mow the lawn. Pick weeds.
Our oldest, we have.
And when they're young, they're still kind of disposable. You can make more, right? That's why you have kids.
Yeah, so to help out a little bit around the house. We just use that excuse when they had them do the dishes. We did the dishes this morning. I'm like, that's your job,
well, I'm
man.
not doing them, so you want an allowance? Pitch in.
Gosh. So, no, great thing on the DeWalt tool thing. We're going to be running a huge promo with the Larks. So we are a sponsor for the Larks team, and we get to run commercials on the board. We're going to be throwing Frisbees all of May. Sorry, May 27th or 28th, I believe, is kickoff through the end of June. They have 20 home games. And we've partnered with DeWalt, and we will be giving out, we have a 40-piece tool, not a tool kit, sorry, a 40-piece little accessory kit, the bits and the drill, and I don't believe that one's in the ad. I'm looking for it. It is a impact tool kit, basically, and it's a 40-piece. It is very similar to that one. It's just a little different. It's $24.99.
Oh, cool.
DeWalt's going to give us 13 to hand out in every game. So we're going to throw Frisbees. Sweet. And, of course, the Larks, they have, these engagement people who stand up on the dugouts and they throw stuff. And we're talking to them do you guys will they throw Frisbees? Our people love throwing things at people.
They'll throw anything.
They'll love it. So we're going to throw
people.
Out. Yeah. So we're going to throw out Frisbees, and every Frisbee will have a sticker on the bottom to come into the store and get your $25 40-piece kit. And DeWalt's helping us out with that. And it's about $9,800 DeWalt's throwing our way to hand out during the Larks games in June.
Again, that comes back to the relationship with the vendors and some of these companies, and Runnings works really hard to get those advantages for their customers.
Yep, and they're just so willing to help. It's just awesome to see these companies help out. But yeah, I mean, you got to come in and check out the DeWalt sale.
Okay, so we are in spring right now, and one of the things that caught my eye on the back of the DeWalt flyer was the buy one and get free the 20-volt max brushless handheld blower. The tool. It's are you kidding me?
Oh, yeah.
It's $160. But all you got to do is pick up one of the cool things that they got this power head deal going on, and you get that free blower with some of these other tools. It's that is unbelievable. either the edger or the string trimmer kit, and then you get the blower.
Right, and those are 60 volts. So you have a lot of people who are like there's not enough power.
I need
I'm
more
like,
power. I
there's
say 60 volts.
There's a lot of power in the 20 volt. On the flex volt, they do a really good job because that 60 volt battery it's a flex volt. It can flex down to your 20. A 20 cannot go into your 60, but when you buy a 60 volt tool, that 60 volt battery can flex down to a 20 volt power tool.
And that lasts forever.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's one of those cool things. So, yeah. They did a great
DeWalt,
job.
There is no better place for DeWalt than Runnings, and now is the time. How long is the Runnings DeWalt deal? Because that's like 2 months worth, isn't it?
All of May and all of June.
Through the end of June.
It's 2 months, yeah.
June 30th.
Yeah.
I mean, go in, figure out what you need, and then and
then go home and then be like, oh, yeah, I want these 3. Oh, yeah, I want these 3. And if you have the 18-volt tool at home, like I still have 18-volt tools, and they're still all working fine. The problem is they don't make the 18-volt battery anymore, but DeWalt has a kit on sale during this, so you can do a conversion kit. So you can now so now you can plug the attachment in your 18-volt and kick a 20-volt battery on there.
That
and
is
it's gonna
so
run
cool.
The tool.
Because that was one of the things that people were concerned about. It's like, that was like one of the things up front on getting into batteries. It's like, yeah, but then they're going to change the batteries. Mm-hmm. And then what? It's like, now I got to buy new tools. DeWalt went,
but battery technology keeps changing, getting bigger and better.
Yeah. DeWalt on sale now at Runnings, all of the Runnings store, but you can shop at the cool one, 701 South Washington in Bismarck. This is Talk of the Town on Super Talk 1270.
1270.
Welcome back to Talk of the Town on Super Talk 1270.
Super Talk 1270. I'm Steve Bakken, along with Brad Ogg, General Manager over at Runnings. We killed the tangy summer sausage sticks.
Yep.
Meat stick Mondays, no more. Good stuff, though. So before we get to the greenhouse, I want to talk about some of the other things in the flyer, because you got some really cool stuff in here. You know, we talked about the Dots pretzels and some of the food items, and salted nut rolls, 2 for $1.50. And why that's important is, like, that was kind of my grandfather and my thing's gig when we go out fishing. So it was always like, he'd pull a salted nut roll out of his pocket, and it's like he'd have one, and it was kind of our thing.
Yeah, the regular size, 2 for $1.50, king size, 2 for $2.50. So I was cashiering on Friday night, and all these nut rolls were coming through, and I was
It's an old school candy bar.
I was like, what? Like, wow, everyone's buying a lot of nut rolls. Well, we activate our ads on Fridays.
Yeah, I get
sometimes. So if you see the Finder on Tuesday or Wednesday, like, we honor those prices, and sometimes we have 2 or 3 people come in with the Finder because they release early in the Finder. We just activate the sale and go for it. But from the second you walk through the door on Friday, it was just greenhouse was hopping, store was hopping. Like, what a beautiful weekend to get out and do things. Like, this past weekend had people doing all the things in their yard, but all these nut rolls were coming through. I'm like, what in the world?
You gotta have a snack. You build up a hunger when you're working.
Had my first salted nut roll working at Runnings, and now they're my protein bar. I keep a couple in my desk.
Yeah, it's all nuts. It's all protein.
Yeah, it's my protein
That's
bar.
the way I check the box.
Right on. It's like it's practically a health snack.
It's a health snack. You and I were talking a little bit during the break about ear protection, because you asked me, it's like, hey, do you wear, when you're mowing the lawn, ear protection? I'm like, yeah, I went and got headphones because I would listen to the radio, and it's loud, and I'm like, okay, I don't have to turn the radio up really loud, because I would always put earbuds in, and I'm like, it's loud. It's your lawn mowing, right? Mm-hmm. And you guys have on sale the Bluetooth ones. These are cool. The AM, FM, so you can listen to the radio, or Bluetooth. So if you want to listen to something on your phone, boom, done. And $36.99. That is a great price.
Yeah, so they're normally $50, and now they're $36.99. Because I've been on the fence on getting a pair. Because
you need a pair.
I run a battery-operated lawnmower, so our lawnmower is super quiet. However, when you're starting to do like the leaf blower and the pruning, and you're running the trimmer, that does still get loud, even though they're all battery operated.
Can I tell you another reason for them? So your mower may be quiet, but I like to get into the zone. And I don't want to hear my wife yelling at me, or it's just me, and I'm, in your case,
the kids.
You won't hear the kids. or your wife. So you need a pair of these.
Just let me mow in peace.
I'm just mowing in peace. It's my quiet time.
Honey, I'm protecting my ears.
Yep.
Yeah.
And you're perfectly, she can't add anything to the honey-do list.
I mean, and there's so many of these at the store, so clearly they're anticipating this sale going well. It's like, gosh, I really should pick up a pair, just, protect my one good ear I have.
I'm same boat.
Keep the right side doing good. Left side might be a lost cause.
Yeah, but there's multiple purposes for those. One of the things too is which we mentioned with the DeWalt and the little battery pressure washer. You got to get up on the ladder, and people don't think about this unless you're in the commercial space. You think about this all the time, but because they have to for OSHA regulations. But how often do you replace your ladder? I mean,
it's true.
How many people have a rickety old wooden or rickety old aluminum ladder and even the fiberglass ones, they wear out with regular use
especially because some people still store them under their deck or in like a weird spot outside. Yeah.
Or the hinge will wear out or get a little warped. So then now you're up on a wobbly ladder. You guys have those Werners on sale, and I got to replace one of mine. And gee, ironically, it's the 6-footer I got to replace, which is the one you've got on sale right now.
Man.
You think about that. I mean, the safety side of that is very important. And of course, as always, you've got just a ton of pet supplies, different stuff on sale with that Heartland Harvest line, which is really a good line. For you guys. You guys have been doing that for a long time.
Yeah, and Wildology has been a really good brand too. Hey, look, there's a lot of shipping issues happening again in the pet world.
Is it really?
Yes, we're starting to see some supply issues with Purina. And it's a transition that they're making for the warehouse. So it's not like they're not hiring enough people. They are good. Their warehouse is transitioning. So some of that product we're having issues with, and some of this we're still getting. We had another shipment stuck at the border coming down from Canada. We had a shipment stuck there that got inspected. And while they hold that's a big inspection when they pull those trailers to the side. And so some of that's getting delayed as well. But we do have some really good brands. But I want to encourage people, when they're on sale like this and you see that it's out, get a rain check. We bought the product for the ad. Just because it's delayed, the product's still going to be here in a week or two.
But if you're buying dog food, you're still going to need it.
Yes, get the rain check. That way you lock down that price.
One of the other things, too, is if you're out working in the yard, of course, you got a great sale and a great selection of gloves. We don't talk about the gloves enough, and I'm kind of a glove geek. It's like I'm always looking for a new pair of gloves because I wear out gloves a lot, and you've got the Noble Outfitters on sale right now. Whether you're looking for garden gloves, work gloves, leather gloves, fabric gloves, doesn't matter. You guys have got a great
all
selection.
The gloves. There's like 28 feet of gloves.
And then, of course, we got to start talking greenhouse.
There you go.
In the greenhouse.
Oh, my gosh. That was this weekend.
Actually, I sent my neighbor over. He just got back from Arizona, and I told him about the deal on dirt. And, yeah, he went over and picked up a whole bunch of...
I am blown away. Like, I don't know. We have never run this
so
many
much dirt.
Deals on dirt before. And
well, you got to plant stuff in something, so you got to have dirt.
So they upped our quantities from last year by, it felt like 25 to 30%, but they're just running great deals on soil constantly. There is one of the Miracle Grow potting mixes or something is always on sale for like $4 or $5 a bag, and the two cubic foot ones like 10 or something like that. They're always running a cool deal on soil. And again, get a rain check, because if it comes back in, we'll honor the rain check.
And of course, sporting goods. Kev does a great job keeping a lot of great things on sale and stocked up there, because we're still right in the heart of fishing season, and they are still biting like crazy on the river. Greenhouse. Your greenhouse is, I can't drive by and not see it full. It's crazy this year.
It's
the selection is amazing.
Yes, that's where I was going to go. Dan and Jerry's out of it's just out of Montevideo, Minnesota. And they ship to us 3 days a week, Monday, Wednesday, Friday. So there's always new plants coming in. They look fantastic when
and
they
your
come
greenhouse
in.
manager doesn't like this, but if you show up Monday, Wednesday, or Friday afternoon,
then we're better. You know, truck's there at 7, 8 o'clock in the morning. We're unloading the truck. There's two different philosophies. One, you're going to buy it off the rack, so I don't have to put it away. And
Fight
the
off the
other
truck.
and the truck sale, and then the other one is like just kind of we're gonna push the carts around, get them placed. But we had another on Friday, another 30-some carts. Last week Wednesday, 30-some carts. This morning, truck's not unloaded yet, but it's supposed to be 46 or 47 carts. So like a normal shipment for us is 20. Like that's a normal freight delivery of flowers is 20, and they've just been sending varieties. If you have a special request, talk to Alice. Ask anyone out there. But what was it? Friday I was out there.
Isn't that a song from the 70s? Alice, go ask Alice.
Is there, I don't know. I'll have to look that up.
Yeah, I have to look that up too.
But 3 times I saw her call our Dan and Jerry's rep, say, "Hey, I have a customer who wants more of this." I'm like, "Yeah, we'll put it on the next truck for you."
Perfect.
You know, so they're really responsive. So if something really cool you want, and we got some awesome plants and some tropical plants. So spruce up the house a little bit. Obviously, you can't leave them outside all year. We got some really cool like hibiscus plants and stuff like that. And then if you want to save a little more, open the Runnings credit card because you're going to save $50.
12 states now. Runnings is in 12 states.
80 stores. 2 more opening up too. We'll be at 82 by the end of the year.
Wow. Running's pretty much everywhere you want to go, and some great deals going on right now. Make sure you get by the greenhouse. What was it? Mondays, Wednesdays, and
Monday,
Fridays?
Wednesday, Friday.
Okay. If
Beautiful
the
day to
manager's
shop.
Listening, we just made them mad, but that's okay.
We don't have a radio in the greenhouse anymore, so she's
Perfect.
listening to the storm music. She has no
Gotcha.
idea I just said
No
that.
problem, then.
Yeah.
This is Talk of the Town. Make sure you stop by Runnings, South Bismarck, 701 South Washington on Super Talk 1270.
Talk of the Town. Weekday mornings starting at 9 on Super Talk 1270 and the free Super Talk 1270 mobile app.
KLXX Mandan Bismarck, a Town Square media station, broadcasting from the View Community Credit Union studio.
What's the easiest choice you can make? Window instead of middle seat? Picking a vendor who sends a great gift basket? Outsourcing business tasks you hate? What about selling with Shopify? Whether you're selling a little or a lot, Shopify helps you do your thing, however you cha-ching. Shopify is the global commerce platform that helps you sell at every stage of your business. From the launch your online shop stage to the first real-life store stage, all the way to the did we just hit 1 million orders stage. Shopify's there to help you grow. Whether you're selling scented soap or offering outdoor outfits, Shopify helps you sell. Wherever and whatever you're selling, Shopify's got you covered. Sign up for a $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/try. Go to shopify.com/try now to grow your business, no matter what stage you're in. Shopify.com/try.